Our goal today is to find out how to find an inverse. In the last few weeks, we have finished quadratics, done solving, getting imaginary solutions and real solutions, and then we jumped into applying the real number system to matrices. We've added, we've subtracted. What do you need, Tate? Up there. We've added, we've subtracted, we've scalar multiplied, we've regular multiplied, we've solved equations with matrices. So today, we're going to use what we learned about determinants to find inverses. The inverse formula (1) divided by the determinant times the matrix D, negative B, negative C, A. Let's start our problem today with matrix A equals 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's easy and quick to store in a matrix. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're going to find an inverse, the first thing you need to find is the determinant. So, Rob, tell me how to find the determinant of that 1, 2, 3, 4 matrix. Okay. Good. What do I do next? Good. Perfect. So my determinant is negative 2. Now, if you remember correctly, when we first learned to do a determinant, you had A, B, C, D, and you had a little formula, A times D minus B times C. So this location A, B, C, D then gets reconfigured to find an inverse. So this was from 10, 13 actually. Then we worked on area using the determinant yesterday. And then today we're actually going to use the determinant to find an inverse. So what do you plug in now for DET, short for determinant? What's our new value for that, Riley? Perfect. So we have 1 divided by negative 2. Now, how do I reconfigure this guy to be DBCA? So let's look at our original ABCD. What happens to A and D here? Don't they just switch places, Erica? Yeah. So A and D are going to switch places. And so instead of having 1 here, I'm going to have a 4. Instead of having 4 here, I'm going to have a 1. Then what happens to B and C? Do they change actual position? Are B and C still in the same spot? Yeah, so how would you describe the change? Yeah, we're just going to change the signs, aren't we? So 2 becomes negative 2 here, and 3 becomes negative 3 there. What's the only thing left to do? What does it look like? Go ahead, Keandre. Yes, scalar multiply. And we did that one of the first days. So negative half of 4 is negative 2. Negative half of negative 2 is 1. Negative half of negative 3 is 3 halves. Negative half of 1 is negative half. So that is the inverse. Now, why do we learn to do inverses? Because our next goal is to use inverses to solve systems of equations. Like there is a goal out there, there's a reason you learn to add, subtract, multiply, scalar multiply, find the determinant, and find the inverse. Because you, yes?
So in that one step, you just switch A and D and then switch the signs?
Right. To get, how did I get from this guy to this guy right here? I just followed my formula for inverse. That was a good question. You spoke perfectly. D and A changed places. Did we do that? and B and C change signs. Did we do that? Then we multiply it every time by 1 divided by the determinant, but the determinant changes in each problem. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. But the reason we do it is so we can use inverses to solve systems of equations in the coming days. Yes?
Does it matter whenever you like multiply the diagonals if you go down or up first? Because I always start from the bottom and I got all the right answers.
Okay. You are supposed to go in the order. You mean start from the bottom like you went?
Yeah, I always go from like C to B and A to D. That's all
You
I
should
do.
not have gotten the right answer. I don't know how that happened because you're supposed to do AD and then subtract CB. So if you started with BC, your signs should be wrong on every problem.
Okay, cool. I didn't like that yesterday. I got all the right answers, but then I was like, that shouldn't be right. Because
Right, like your sign should have been reversed. So I don't know what other mistake you made. Like I'll have to think about it, but I will think about it and try to figure out how you could do it wrong and still get it right. I don't know, just let me think.
Okay.
Yeah, because it should have come out with the wrong sign, but you're saying, Hannah, that it didn't.
No, I got all the right answers.
Okay, all right, I'll think about it and see if I can see why. I'll probably have to mess around with a couple of problems and see. Good question, very good question. All right, if I give you this matrix, 1, -5, -1, 4. If I ask you to please find the inverse, what is the first thing you now know you have to do? Right, find the determinant. So, to find the determinant, I'm going to do 1 times 4 is 4, minus -1 times -5 is +5. So my determinant should be -1. My formula is 1 over the determinant times A and D switch places, B and C change signs. And I literally talk to myself when I do these problems. I say A and D switch places, B and C change signs. Now, what's the next thing you want to do, Tate? Yeah. Simplify if you can your fraction. 1 divided by -1 is -1. So what is our inverse matrix? How about Spinda? What is our inverse matrix? Right, perfect. So on every single term, because it's scalar multiplication, your sign is going to change. Absolutely perfect. What if I gave you the problem and I wrote it like this, and I gave you, like here I said, find the inverse is how you knew what to do. What if I gave you this matrix and all I wrote down was the power of -1? What does that mean? Good if it was anything but matrices. That is a symbol, just like, remember, what were straight sticks? What was that a symbol for? Find the determinant. So we kind of knew from the beginning that there was going to be some different changes to how we've known things in the past, right? So this -1 means the same as find the inverse. Because in the past, Keandra, that's exactly what we would have done. Exactly. So when you have a matrix to the power of -1, it means you're going to find the inverse. What's the first thing I have to do, Rachel, to find the inverse? Perfect. What else? Perfect. So our formula says 1 over the determinant times, I'm going to switch A and D. I'm only going to switch the signs of B and C. And what do I do last there, Lakin? Right, just take half of them all. Half of 2 is 1, half of -2 is -1, half of -5 is -5 halves, and half of 6 is 3. So whether it says find the inverse in words or if it has a symbol of the power of -1, you know that you are to find the inverse. Let me look at the directions for those quickly and see if I want to change anything.